everyone's going that way. Here. Don't go that way. Come back. I've never seen anybody... They're all going that way. The boss is there. I can see it. It's just there. This is really bizarre. Everyone's just left me. I've never seen anybody do this. They're just like, fuck it. We're going to go... Are they going to run all the way around? They did do. They ran all the way around. The boss is like right there. And hopefully by the time I solo this mob down... People, come back! Come back! Please? Holla ballers! What's going on? It's Preacher! And we're looking at the Guardian Druid, the big fuzzy bear. Drink it in. Yeah, fear me, boss. You shall not kill the bear. Or maybe you will. Unfortunately, the Guardian is in the weakest tank spot right now. Understandably, a lot of people are actually moving away from it, because having weak tanks, not helpful to your raid. Not helpful to your raid, but I have no doubt that some changes are probably in the works, which will bring the Guardian Druids back into favour. And as such, we should just hold our breath a little bit and not discriminate against our bear friends, because they are fuzzy and they need our cuddles and they need our love. So I'm here to teach you how to play it. We're going to do the basic talents and overview of what you should be looking for and the abilities that you're going to be using on a regular basis. And then we're going to jump to some gameplay where we're going to see how different situations occur, from AoE to tanking to cleaving to 2 or 3 targets and blah, 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 and how to deal with that in the correct manner as being a tank. Because in general, being a tank is far more than just your gear. Okay, so let's talk about it straight away. What is the specialization? What is the big thing about being a bear? It's about physical damage mainly, and having huge amounts of health. That's what it's generally about, being able to soak up giant big hits. And that does come with some consequences, but it is generally our niche, our go-to, and therefore that's what you should be intending when you pick up a Guardian Druid, is that is where your strengths will hopefully one day lie. So, let's talk about our talents. Talents are always a bit of a mishmash. Unfortunately, I will be somewhat negative in this guide until things get changed, but I'm just trying to point out where your problems may lie. I'm not being I'm not being sarcastic in any manner. So, at level 15, you have a choice of movement. Most tanks will pick up Wild Charge. It's a little bit of a shame that it's not baked in as it is with the other classes, but Wild Charge is actually very, very cool if you have to jump away. There are lots of bosses that involve a dramatic movement and not something that's sort of steady movement. If you understand what I'm saying there, you have to drag bosses out, get back, you have to go up onto platforms if you're doing some Blackrock Foundry, and then get back to the boss and all that kind of stuff. So Wild Charge is generally the go-to. Displace the Beast, not so much. Puts you in cat form, very bad for being a tank. I don't recommend being in cat form at any point while you're a tank, even if you're going to jump away. Wild Charge should help you in some manner. If you're going to be doing some 5-mans and challenge modes and all that kind of stuff, then Feline Swiftness is great. It's also great for some bosses if you just know you're not going to need to charge. As a tank, you are in control of the position of the melee, which means moving quickly allows your melee to readjust very quickly and get that boss nice and stationary, which is what we like to see. At level 30, Ysera's Gift is quite nice, but you'll want to be taking Renewal in general. Scenario Ward, not so much. Sometimes not. These choices are all dependent on the content you're doing. Okay, some people will swear by one, and you might read a written guide that says you must take this. It's not really the case with the Guardians. You can pick and choose whatever you wish. It doesn't matter, but you will decide, do I need a big boost heal? 20% of maximum health on a tank that has a huge amount of health. It's pretty damn good, right? Pretty damn good emergency cooldown button there. But if it's steady incoming damage, maybe you want to take Ysera's Gift, which is 2% every 5 seconds. Not an insubstantial amount of healing, right? It's pretty damn good. Level 45, pick whatever you want. At level 60, this is where we start making choices. Now, the talents for bears aren't great, so bear that in mind. So the Forest is generally not what's chosen, but I like it. Mangle generates 5 more rage, deals 15% more damage. If you're very good, this is going to come into the gameplay section, if you're very good at managing Mangle in between doing all kinds of other things, like the Guardian Druids have to do, it can actually work out very beneficial. A lot of people like Incarnation, okay? An improved bear form that reduces the cooldown of all melee and damaging abilities by, and Growl to 1.5 seconds, and it lasts for 30 seconds. Pretty goddamn good, guys. Pretty goddamn good for that on-demand cooldown. You need to get aggro or do whatever you need to do. Remember how much rage you generate for that 30 seconds. You can look at it as a defensive cooldown. So look at it kind of overall or a period of serious defensive cooldowns. Remember, rage completely turns into defensive abilities for the Guardian Druid, so that's what you're choosing there. At level 75, doesn't really matter. I like Mighty Bash, despite it being a 5-second stun with a 50-second cooldown. Again, if you're doing things like challenge modes or 5-man content or whatever it might be, having the ability to stun, no doubt your other DPSs will never interrupt, is really nice. Incapacitating Roar isn't great. It can't compare it. Some people like to compare it to Shockwave. Nope, because any damage just breaks the effects and therefore it's semi-useless. Ursul's Vortex is good for trying to pre-plan where mobs will be if you need to get in there and tank them. None of the mobs are going to run away, so pick and choose as you like. At level 90, your go-to is Dream of Cenarius. You kind of have to pick this up. The Guardian Druids are somewhat the weakest tank right now, and what you're after here is the huge, and it is huge, Healing Touch heal that you will gain from this. Remember how Resolve works for tanks, buffing heals. You can get some enormous healing touches out of this. Let me read which part. Your Mangle crits have a 40% chance to make your next Healing Touch or Rebirth instant. It should bear in mind that Rebirth, as much as it's a utility spell, unless you have the Dream of Cenarius proc, you're going to have to pop out of bear form to cast it. Not ideal. Not ideal, but if the Dream of Cenarius proc does allow you to cast a Rebirth, should that be necessary to your raid, hopefully you do have Warlocks, DKs, and of course other Druids who can deal with that situation for you. What we're actually after is the Dream of Cenarius heal. It heals for a huge amount, and it doesn't cost us rage. That's important, because our rage can go to other defensive cooldowns as well. Have some way of tracking it. I would like to demonstrate it, but it probably won't proc immediately, which would be a bit of a bummer. I'll pop Berserk to try and get it to proc. Go, go, go. Come on, show me the crits, baby. There it is. See, I've got this here, and my buttons will light up here, my Rebirth and my Healing Touch, and then you can cast that. Don't spam this fucking Healing Touch. My God. When Dream of Cenarius does proc, please do not spam your Healing Touch button. If you do not have the proc like now, and I cast it, you're out of bear form and you're going to die. So something to bear in mind there, that if you are going to use your Dream of Cenarius heal, please, for the love of God, press it once and once alone. Level 100. This is where it gets a little bit iffy. Okay, so the go-to is Pulverize. Why? 15% damage reduction to everything. That's pretty damn important. This affects debuffs, magical damage, all kinds of crazy stuff. If it's going to hurt you, it's going to be reduced by 15% if you have the Pulverize buff up. The Pulverize buff lasts outrageously short. It's incredible how short this is. It's 12 seconds now. I know some saying, well, it doesn't take me 12 seconds to get the 3 stacks of Lacerate up, which Pulverize requires, but often you're doing other things. This buff it's kind of old school, honestly. It's a very old school idea of having these short-term temporary buffs that you can keep up 100% of the time. And if you do take Pulverize, which you should be doing, then you do want it up 100% of the time. Guardian of Elune was recently buffed, so Savage Defense now lasts 3 seconds instead of 6. But increases your dodge chance to 100%. That sounds super powerful. Additionally, the recharge time of Savage Defense is now reduced by your base dodge chance percentage. So you get more Savage Defenses with the shorter cooldown, and they allow you to dodge for 100%, which means you're not going to take any physical damage. The problem is, you might think, why won't I take that over Pulverize? Is it doesn't affect debuffs and such. It doesn't affect any of that. It's purely melee attacks coming in on you, giving you 100% dodge on that. So it sounds very good, but in practice, not so much. There are very, very, very few fights where you're not having something else going onto the tanks. There's usually definitely something else, and including undodgeable attacks happening to you as a tank, which kind of makes Guardian of Elune a little bit on the weaker side. Bristling Fur. This also sounds good. A 1-minute cooldown that reduces all damage taken by 40% for 3 seconds. Unfortunately, you're battling against Pulverize, which is 15% all the time, instead of 40% for 3 seconds every 1 minute. Obviously, Bristling Flare has the advantage of nullifying some mega attacks, which we have yet to really see. That's the problem with it. We have yet to really see something where it's like, I can't justify having 15% damage reduction all the time because I need 40% every minute. That just hasn't happened yet, especially with the dazzling array of cooldowns that the Guardian Druids had. So those are your choices. Pulverize generally go to. Your glyphs. Glyphs are again a little bit on the weaker side, unfortunately, as they are with most Druid specs, sadly, besides Resto. So these are the ones that I generally roll with, is Glyph of Phase Silence. Having your Fairy Fire able to silence mobs is kick ass. It's so good. You want to make death balls as a tank. You want to group as many mobs into one spot as possible. Makes your DPS better, makes your range DPS better, makes the physical DPS better. Very, very nice. Phase Silence will help that a lot. Glyph of Stampeding Roar. I swear by this thing. Stampeding Roar is an amazing ability. Good Druids will be using it pretty much constantly. Okay? So Stampeding Roar, making sure it can hit absolutely everybody. That is so important to me. Glyph of Maul. This is kind of the mandatory one. is your ability now hits one additional target for 50%. You will see as we go in, there are some issues with the AoE rotation, I'll call it now, with the Guardian Druid. Glyph of Maul helps out a little bit with that while we're doing other things. All right, so those are the general glyphs you're going to go to. What are our abilities? Our resources rage. We have abilities that generate rage, like Mangle and Thrash. They generate rage for us. Absolutely fantastic, okay? Really, really cool. And we also generate rage via our Lacerate, which is our bleed, which we apply to the target, and it stacks up to 3 times. So your priority is Mangle, if we're single targeting. If we say our dungeon training dummy here is our boss, you'll be going in, you'll be mangling, and you'll be stacking your Lacerate up to 3. And if you take a Pulverize, which you probably do at 3 stacks, you will use Pulverize. And you can see you'll gain this buff here. You can see the way I track it there. And then restacking your Lacerate. Should be noted here that Pulverize is a DPS loss, but 15% damage taken reduction is pretty damn good. So, we also saw that proc. Tooth and Claw. This is very important. Guardian Druids do not struggle for rage at all. So you'll see this proc come up. You want to use your Maul with that ability, and that applies the Tooth and Claw debuff. Your next auto attack deals 10,000 less damage. Now that's the actual mob that gets that debuff, okay? The mob will be getting that debuff. So the boss will deal less damage to you if you maul it while the Tooth and Claw debuff is up. Very, very simple. Nothing to worry about there. It's just the fact that when it procs, use it. You should have enough rage to be mauling on cooldown. There you go, maul. And if you want to do extra DPS, you can throw some other balls. You can see it just procs and procs and procs and procs. It comes back before mauls even have cooldown most occasions, like you're seeing here, and keeping that Tooth and Claw debuff active. So those are your important things to attack. If we're AoEing, we're using Thrash, okay? No cooldown, spams rage, okay? You gain 1 rage every time it hits a target and deals damage, so you want to be thrashing to AoE. But you also want to be including things like Mangle. Now, as I said, Pulverize switches up the gameplay a little bit. Pulverize needs Lacerate. It needs it. So, unfortunately, while you're AoEing, you should be trying to lacerate a target. Something that's going to live the longest, because obviously it's a bit of a bummer if you lacerate targets and then they die before you can get the 3 off. You can't do, say, a 2-stack Pulverize. It needs the 3 lacerates. And you need the rage from Mangle as well. So AoEing isn't as simple as I press Thrash and I run around and I jump around like a big stupid bear and just thrash away. That would be nice, but no, we don't do that. You want to be working in Mangles. Okay? You want to be working in Mangles and you want to be working in Lacerates with Pulverize. Okay? Bear in mind that is with Pulverize because you want to keep that 15% damage reduction up. Does mean we sacrifice some AoE DPS, which is not the best either with Guardian, but that's what we need to do. Other than that, we need to spend our rage. So we're generating rage through all these abilities. How do we spend it? On our defensive cooldowns, our active mitigation, which is either Savage Defense, which has 2 charges with a 12-second recharge. At its base, it's 45% dodge for 60 rage. Pretty damn good. Savage Defense is pretty damn good against physical attacks, right? It's no shield barrier. It's not really block. The problem with Savage Defense is it's still a dodge chance, which means you can be RNG fucked. At its core nature, Savage Defense is an RNG ability. Anything that is a percentage chance is still RNG. Won't happen often. You're not really going to get situations where you're AoE tanking, you pop a Savage Defense and you don't dodge anything, but it is still an RNG ability at its core, so that's something you should bear in mind. The only other way we can deal with things is Frenzied Reju. Now, I've got to be honest, guys, this is one of the worst abilities in the game. It doesn't mitigate, because the only way you can get any benefit of it is to take the damage in the first place. That kind of goes against the idea of mitigation, you know, right? This only works if you take damage. So Frenzied Rejuve is just a flat-out heal. Nothing more, nothing less. It converts 60 rage into health. Works with Resolve. So at high Resolve, it can put out some reasonably good heals, but it is still, you have to take the damage. Regardless of what anything else happens, you have to take the damage to then heal it. That leads to a situation sometimes, guys, where you'll be tanking and you'll have your Savage Defense with no charges and you'll be swimming in rage and you have nothing to spend it on. Now, that's not a weird situation to be in. Sometimes, due to the RNG nature of dodge and all that kind of stuff, is you simply do not have the ability to do anything with your rage, okay? So you can see here, I'm spamming and spamming and spamming, and I've got time to wait. And you'll sit with rage, and you won't be able to do much about anything at all. You'll just sit there. And that's okay. If you're at full health, there's no point in dropping 60 rage on a heal. It's not going to do any difference whatsoever. Sometimes you just don't need healing. It happens. You might be dodging everything in the world. Don't worry about it. Build your rage up for your next Savage Defense. Use a couple of extra mauls. That is generally the go-to style of play. Okay? On top of that, we've got our various other cooldowns, such as Survival Instincts, 2 charges, 2-minute recharge. Bear in mind, it's a long-ass recharge. Okay? 50% for 6 seconds. So be choosy about when you use it, but don't let it sit there. And Bark Skin, of course. All damage taken reduced by 20% on top of our other cooldowns. And we should mention Berserk here. Some people get angry at me for saying this, but Berserk is and always will be a defensive cooldown. Why? It allows us to spam Mangle. Mangle means more rage, which means we can spam heal, we can do all kinds of crazy stuff. It's not just a DPS cooldown. It really is not just a DPS cooldown. In terms of stats you're looking for, obviously as a tank we are looking for bonus armor, okay? You're looking for items with bonus armor on them. That will give you the biggest defensive strats. Other than that, you want mastery wherever you can get it. Want to get your mastery up and good, okay? Mastery is always nice. Our mastery as the Guardian Druid is a very cool little thing that was the answer, I suppose, to say to block, because druids don't block, and that was the Primal Tenacity. When you are hit by a physical attack, you gain a physical absorb shield via magic. Don't ask me, I just work here. Equal to 20.8% of that hit's damage. Attacks which is effectively absorbs cannot trigger Primal Tenacity. Also increase your attack power by 13%. So mastery and bonus armor is what you're going for. Anything else is just extras, okay? Anything else is just extras. Just aim for bonus armor and aim for mastery and get as much of it as you possibly can. That is your Guardian Druid basics. Now let's jump into a 5-man. Let's try all these different things out, see it in action, and see what you guys think. All right, guys? Thank you very much. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.